Well, hey, halflings, welcome back. It's been a minute. I apologize for such a long period of not downloading any videos, but I'm happy to be back and excited to have you guys listening again. So, I decided to start with book number 4 of the Animal Arc Pet series, and this one is called Hamster Hotel. So, I'm excited to start this. Let's dive in. Chapter 1 A Visitor at Lilac Cottage. Mandy Hope, did you hear what I said? Mrs. Todd was standing right beside Mandy's school desk. Mandy looked up at her teacher. She had been miles away. Today was the day that her grandmother's friend Mary was bringing her hamster to stay at Lilac Cottage, Mandy's grandparents' house. Mandy's grandparents were going to look after the hamster for a week while Mary was away on vacation. Mandy just couldn't wait to meet him. "Oh, sorry, Mrs. Todd," she said. No, I didn't." "What's the heaviest animal on land in the world next to the elephant, Mandy?" The class was having a quiz, and it was Mandy's turn to answer a question. "Oh," Mandy said, "a rhinoceros." You could ask Mandy anything about animals, and she almost always knew the answer. Mrs. Todd nodded. "Good, very nice, Mandy." Mandy glanced up at the clock. 3 o'clock, almost time to go home. Better still, it was vacation. She and her best friend James Hunter would have a whole week to spend with a hamster. James was a year younger than Mandy and loved animals almost as much as she did. James had 2 pets, a Labrador puppy named Blackie and a cat named Benji. Mandy would have loved to have a pet too, but her parents were both vets and were too busy looking after other people's animals to have pets of their own. Mandy wanted to be a vet like her parents one day. She longed to help out with the sick animals at their clinic, Animal Arc, but knew she would have to wait until she was older. When school was finished, Mandy helped Mrs. Todd take Terry and Jerry, the class gerbils, out to her car. Mrs. Todd was going to care for them at her house during the vacation. Mandy said goodbye to Mrs. Todd, then ran to meet James, who was waiting by the school gate. They always went home together. "Today's hamster day!" Mandy zipped up her coat against the cold wind. James pushed his glasses onto the bridge of his nose. "I didn't forget," he said. "When can I come and see him?" "Mom said I could go straight to Grandma's after school," Mandy said. "You could come with me now if you like." "Will your grandma mind?" James asked. "Of course she won't," said Mandy. "Great," said James, hurrying to keep up. "Let me just tell my mom where I'm going." He ran on ahead to his house. "Don't be long," Mandy called. "And you better not bring Blackie this time. He might frighten the hamster." James disappeared into his house. Mandy waited for him by the front gate. Suddenly, a black nose pushed the back door open, and Blackie came running out. James followed soon after. "Blackie!" James shouted. "Come back!" Blackie threw himself at Mandy, all big paws and wagging tail. Mandy sighed and gave him a cuddle. Blackie rolled over on his back with his legs in the air so Mandy could tickle his tummy. James caught up with him and grabbed the puppy's collar. "Blackie, when will you learn to do as you're told?" He gently shook the puppy and scolded him. "He's learned to open the door," James explained to Mandy. "So I see," she laughed. Blackie stood up and began licking her face. Mandy gave him another hug. "You're a very clever dog," she said. "Yes, he is, but when is he going to behave?" said James. "Never, by the looks of it." Mandy pushed Blackie gently away. "You'll have to take him to puppy training classes." "Dad's already taken him," James told her as he hauled Blackie back into the house. "But he caused a riot." Mandy chuckled. "A riot?" "Yes, he ran off with the trainer's whistle, stole the treats they're going to have at break time, and got a hold of a lady's scarf and tore it to pieces. Dad won't take him again." "I'm not surprised." Mandy burst out laughing. "One of our vacation jobs will have to be some serious training with Blackie," she said. James looked sad. "We can try," he said, "but I don't have much hope. He hasn't gotten better since the last time we tried." Mandy skipped ahead as they made their way across the green village. It was a damp afternoon, with a hint of drizzle in the wind. Come on, I can't wait to see the hamster. Grandpa was busy in the garden of Lilac Cottage, pruning back the shrubs. The sleeves of his old gardening sweater were pushed up to the elbows. There was a wheelbarrow full of twigs and leaves on the path. Mandy pushed past and ran to give him a hug. Have you come to see Frisky the hamster? Grandpa asked. Yep, I've brought James. Very good, Grandpa said. Hello, James. How are you? Fine, thank you, Mr. Hope, said James. That's good. Go on in. Grandma's in her study, typing some letters. Grandma, I'm here, Mandy called as she and James went in through the back door. The click-clack of Grandma's old-fashioned typewriter came from the other room. James is with me. Mandy looked around the kitchen. There was no sign of the hamster. They went into Grandma's study. Hello, you two, Grandma said. Mandy gave her Grandma a kiss. Where is he, Grandma? Grandma turned around in her chair and took off her glasses. If you mean Frisky, I've put him in the spare room. It's nice and light and warm by the radiator. May we go up and see him, please? Of course you can. Mandy dumped her bag on the floor and ran up the stairs, James close behind. She pushed open the spare bedroom door. On a little table near the radiator was the hamster's cage. We can't make any loud noises, Mandy whispered. Hamsters are easily frightened. She peered into the cage. It was big and had a raised platform with a ladder leading up to it. There was a wheel for Frisky to exercise on, and a gnawing block so he could sharpen his teeth. Frisky was inside a wooden box on top of the platform. His little face was peeping out of a nest of soft hay. Mandy drew in her breath. Oh, look, James, isn't he so sweet? Frisky gazed out at her with jet-black, shiny eyes. His nose twitched, and his whiskers wiggled. He's gorgeous, James said in a hushed voice. Will he come out, do you think? We might have to wait until it starts to get dark, Mandy said. She knew hamsters usually slept in the daytime. But as Mandy spoke, Frisky suddenly pushed his way through the hay and popped out onto his platform. He sat up on his hind legs and began washing his face. His paws had 4 fingers each. His little body was round and plump, and his fur was brownish-gray. Mandy was delighted. She put her finger through the bar of the cage and wiggled it. He's very tiny. James peered closer. Dad told me he's a Russian hamster, Mandy said. He said they're much smaller than the golden hamsters that most people have. What's that in the corner of the cage? James pointed to a place where it looked as if Frisky had piled the sawdust up in a heap. That must be his food store, Mandy said. Food store? James said, looking puzzled. Yes, said Mandy. Hamsters always make a food store. In the wild, they live in the desert, so they never know when their next meal's coming from. With a food store, they can eat whenever they like. I see, said James. What a good idea. You seem to know a lot about it, Mandy, Grandpa's voice came from the doorway. Mandy turned, her eyes shining. Mom gave me one of those pamphlets they keep in the clinic. You know, the ones that tell you all about your pet and how to take care of it. Ah, yes. Grandpa bent to peer at Frisky. What do you think of the little guy? He's great, said Mandy and James together. They laughed. Can we take him out and play with him? Asked James. I think we'd better let him settle down first, Grandpa said. Come and see him again tomorrow. I'm sure he'll be used to his vacation home by then. There was a bag of hamster mix on the floor beside the table. The mix was made up of seeds and cereal flakes and dried fruit. There was also a bag of wooden shavings from the bottom of Frisky's cage, and a bundle of hay for his nest box. Maybe he should have a few more toys, Mandy said to Grandpa and James when they were on their way down the stairs. Hamsters get very bored easily. You're the expert, Grandpa said. He went to put the kettle on to make a cup of tea. Grandma was still clattering away in her study. Tea, Dorothy, Grandpa called. Want some lemonade, you two? Yes, please, they both said. Mandy was looking thoughtful. I'll bring Frisky a tube tomorrow, she said. You know, one of those from inside a paper towel roll. What for? Asked James. For him to run in and out of, Mandy said. She sat down at the table. Oh, Grandpa, I can't wait to play with him. Grandma came in for her cup of tea. Frisky has been asleep since Mary brought him over, she said, so I haven't had a good look at him yet. Well, he's awake now, Grandma, Mandy said, and you can take it from me. Mandy's eyes shone. He's just gorgeous.